Hey everyone, hey marketers. I'm Ognjen, founder of Raven, the founder brand consultancy and community, where we work with some great founders and executives on founder brand or thought leadership. Cannot really call it founder brand if it's an executive doing this. But the way I like to frame this discussion is, there's a certain decline in different moats companies used to rely on. And the way to visualize this is obviously a castle and a moat around it. And historically, companies mostly relied on these kind of traditional moats, things like network effects, low cost production, capital intensive spaces where it just costs too much to get in, like within the automobile industry or airlines, and then switching costs, things like if you're a CRM, good luck having 500 plus people companies switching to your thing from Salesforce, because it's just too much of a headache, too long of a process, just too complex to make the switch. Then we have intellectual property. If you had some product innovation and patents to go alongside with those, you were kind of ahead of the market, at least for a certain number of years. And then regulatory moats were basically kind of the legislative side just doesn't allow new competitors to come in. There's sort of a monopoly that a few companies, category leaders hold. But there is a problem with all of these modes, right? I assume most of us here are not working for a category leader, because there's one, maybe two category leaders in each category, and none of this is really useful for a business that isn't already an established player, a category leader. So it's kind of a catch-22 here. Like, you have these modes and they will defend your business, but you first need to become the category leader, right? So it just doesn't make sense for the small guy, for a challenger brand, for a startup. So what I'm going to be talking about here is sort of the new, it's not really new, but it's kind of has to be a different kind of a playbook that the small guy, the startup, the challenger brand implements to win in 2025 and beyond. And we painted the picture with these 6 traditional big moats, competitive moats, and now let's look at some other moats that may be actually applicable and useful for you today. And most of the time you'll stumble upon these 4. First of all, share of voice or organic reach. Share of voice is pretty much at least one of the things. One part of the marketing and growth equation is simple, and that is to capture more market share. You need to capture more share of voice, outsized share of voice. That's where organic reach comes in as well. Someone that has 100,000 followers combined over social media will have more reach, even if they are just a early stage startup, compared to some established players who don't have this organic reach, a lot of social following, or a big user base or whatever. Then we have kind of the route of just being someone that has the deepest insights about their customer, knowing your customer better than others through all kinds of research, interviews, being close to them, paying attention actually to what they have to say and what they need, spending time with them, and just being in the places where they hang out. Then speed of execution, Salesforce or Adobe or any of these great players will not spend time on smaller segments of market, right? They will always go for the next big thing. Like if a company is doing 500 million ARR with one product, they will not build a product that can only do 20 million ARR. Like, that's the cap of the TAM for that product. So basically, you have this advantage as a smaller player, newer player, that you can do things faster, and you can focus on the underserved parts of the market. So that's basically speed of execution and niche positioning, targeting the untargeted, the underserved segments of the market. So the way I see it, the way most of the industry will tell you, that there are these 4 moats that you can rely on, and then obviously there are a lot of kind of different mixes of these 4 moats that you can implement, different playbooks you can apply, different kind of area of focus where you can put these things into action. And one of those things is founder brand. I will keep referring to this as founder brand because I think that's the most powerful version of this. But let's say just that there's a kind of a broader bucket where a founder brand is one of the things in that bucket, and let's say that bucket is organic, social, thought leadership, the whole thing. Founder brand being one of the most powerful ways you can apply this framework, this playbook. So a startup can actually put all of this into action with founder brand. So that's what I'll be talking about. And before I get to it, I'd like to make just 2 disclaimers. This is not for everyone, not for every founder. In my experience, by just observing the industry, working with a lot of founders who are doing this, sometimes it fails, sometimes it works out great, but kind of the commonality with all the strong founder brands is that they have these 3 ingredients, and it's kind of the overlap of these 3 things that you need to play on. So first of all, usually those who crush it are still now or were their ICP. They were their target persona, so they understand them deeply. They actually have the subject matter expertise that their persona, core target persona, has, and that level of insight into the daily job of your persona, the things you need but don't really need, pains you go through, the relationships you have with your peers, your counterparts, your boss, your people under you in the hierarchy. This is just like very hard to replace. It could be done with being really active on the other 2 fronts, other 2 ingredients here, or just being close to the customer in whatever way possible. The second thing is, if a founder doesn't believe in the power of brand or marketing, it's gonna be really hard to convince them to do this. You may get the initial buy-in, but like very soon, and this is something I go through daily when I'm consulting and working with founders on this, like they will you will get buy-in from them early on, but like the whole point here, the big requirement to building a founder brand is longevity. This has to be done like for months, years, not like quarter by quarter or month by month. It's a much longer period of time required, and you got to have a lot of consistency here. And then the last one, again, goes back to understanding your market, your customer. If the founder is still in the trenches, meaning getting on the sales calls, maybe not every sales call, but every now and then, if they are at events talking to their customers, things like that. Creating content is also another way of just being close. So if these 3 ingredients are present, great, you have like what it takes to do this. Still doesn't mean that you will crush it, but that's kind of the prerequisite. And then another disclaimer I want to make is, there are so many LinkedIn gurus today. Your feeds are full of those. Mine is too. And I won't be talking about this stuff, the guru stuff. I won't be giving you like a playbook for becoming or helping your founder become LinkedIn mascot, ending up on LinkedIn lunatics on Reddit and so on. This is the goal with founder brand. The way I see it is not to do any of that. It's not to talk about remote work tips. It's not to give leadership advice unless that's what you sell. And the goal is to create an effective go-to-market motion by increasing your share of voice and becoming associated with your ICP's category entry points, the triggers that lead them from being outside market, not looking to buy, to being in market, actually ready to buy and ending up buying from one of the top 3-4 choices and at the top of their list. So let's proceed. Just before we actually officially get into the playbook, here's a meme showing, irrefutable evidence that founder brand is directly correlated, or it's the cause of company growth. You've all witnessed Mark working on his founder brand. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, so we talked about some ingredients when it comes to the founder. You'll also need some things in place, some essential ingredients in place on the strategic level. And in my view, it's these 4 things: understanding the dichotomy of goals, figuring out and really being precise about your ICP, understanding where your realm of relevancy is, and having a strategic narrative to reflect all the previously mentioned things. So let's proceed with the first one, the dichotomy of goals. So basically, if you look at all the B2B brands who are crushing it on social, who have this large share of voice, who are dominating the discussion, who we call thought leaders or pioneers or whatever, if you look at all of them, you'll realize that most of the time they are marketing the problem and not the solution. Solution is your product, may not be the only solution, but marketing the solution is kind of the easy way to do marketing. Just do a screen share, show the features of your product, maybe align them to your customers' jobs to be done, things like that. But the problem is folks are not interested in figuring out learning about a new product or buying a new product per se. They are interested in something else, which is fixing their problems, learning about the solutions to those problems. And that's why most of the time, kind of the balance I suggest is somewhat, 80% of time and investment should go towards marketing the problem, and the rest, the 20%, should go towards marketing the solution. And by the way, this doesn't have to be always like a clean cut split, but it's an important kind of a mindset behind this to be had in mind. Some content, some tools will help you better market a problem. Some tools, meaning content, will help you market a solution. Sometimes you'll see the overlap. Some type of content will achieve both goals. But most of the time, you'll want a different set of tools, meaning content, to market a solution and market a problem. Then the next one, ideal customer profile. I talked to, just this year, I probably talked to 20, 30 companies, consultants, some of them. And I'm always amazed when I see how shallow or very loose ICP definitions in companies are. And a really bad example of that can be, we want to sell into the entire go-to-market function at B2B companies, very narrow, very surface level. We want to, our target market is B2B SaaS companies in US, or we sell to demand gen, manager, CMO, and RevOps, all 3 at B2B orgs. This is very generic, no unique insights that you're kind of demonstrating here that you have about your customer. So the better version of that would be, we sell to US-based companies doing over 20 million ARR, B2B software companies where the founder is a distribution-first founder, meaning he was or she was, serial founder, or was a CMO, now became, has the marketing or sales background. They have a marketing team of 5 people or more, mostly sell through a dominantly sales-led motion, but with the decline of their marketing effectiveness, and the rise of CAC and whatnot, they are starting to look for new channels to invest in, new motions. So brand is one of them, and they are looking to launch a new sustainable GTM channel on, for example, LinkedIn. So that's pretty much kind of my definition of my ideal customer. And whenever in doubt, get more specific, more detailed about who your ideal customer is. If you don't, you won't have a great time on social, or specifically on LinkedIn. It's gonna sort of force you to do that, and you'll see across the funnel, across all metrics, much better situation once you have this really well defined, very nailed down. Then the next thing, I mentioned, and I keep talking about people on LinkedIn who do, fluff content, clickbaity content, content that is like, about 5 B2B sales lessons I've learned by proposing to my fiance, girlfriend, wife, remote work tips, things like that. All of that is fluff and won't help you achieve any business goals, right? It will sometimes help you go viral, but like that isn't really an objective for a business. When done right, obviously it is great, but with this type of content, the vague, generic LinkedIn guru type of content, you won't have luck with it. So what I suggest is, basically, the definition of strategy, among other things, is knowing where to play. And where you should play is within your realm of relevancy. Realm of relevancy is how I define sort of the ecosystem where your ICP lives. And you can think of it as these 2 concentric circles. The same way we look at SOM, SAM, and TAM. So, your obtainable market, serviceable, addressable market, and total addressable market. The way you start at the way you have your kind of sales revenue generating activities aimed at the smallest circle here, obtainable market, realistically obtainable market that you can service. Similar to that, look at your ICP on this side as where you generate your revenue. But to generate reach, you gotta expand beyond that, and that's kind of your TAM in this case. So your realm of relevancy is sort of your total addressable market when it comes to audience building. So the point here is in the orange circle, that's where you're having most relevant discussion, engagement, and so on, and that's where most of the time you'll generate revenue. You gotta reach your ICP, right? You gotta create content that's designed exclusively for them. That's when they will actually associate you with these category entry points and eventually buy from you. And then if you only do that, the problem is you won't build a huge audience. So the solution is to work on these things in parallel. As I said, this dichotomy of goals. On one hand, you want to be building an audience. On the other hand, you want to be generating revenue. So if you generate revenue in the orange circle, where you build an audience and get much greater reach and increase your share of voice, is these green concentric circles. But again, the point, as I've said, is don't go too far, don't venture too far beyond your realm of relevancy. Whenever you do that, you'll end up in the fluff land, and that's not what, shouldn't be something you want to do. And then we get to the final point of this kind of strategic foundations bit of the presentation, which is strategic narrative. There's like so much that can be said about this, so this will be a very short version of it. Everything you've outlined in the previous sections, where to play, meaning what your realm of relevance is, who your target ideal customer profile is, and once you understand the dichotomy of goals, then you proceed to kind of document all of that within your narrative. And feel free to ping me later on LinkedIn for some research resources on this, but for now, I'll just say there are a few formulas you can use to craft a narrative for your company. The one I kind of always go back to is taking a look at a status quo. There's this problem in the status quo, and it's felt by your ICP. Then kind of the second step in making this argument is that there's a change either coming or has already come that will hurt those who stick to status quo, those who don't abandon it. And then the ideological solution to this problem and to this status quo will make you victorious. Here's what I propose, and so on. And then you have the old Hegelian dialectic formula, which is thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And then you have more modern Andy Raskin's strategic narrative formula, which is name a big relevant change in the world, show there will be winners and losers, tease the promised land, introduce features as magic gifts for overcoming those obstacles, and then offer evidence you can make the story come true. But at its essence, it's understand the problem and market the problem. Ideally, if you can kind of stake your claim in the around this problem and maybe even name it, like user evidence has the evidence gap. I think Clary has the clarity gap and the revenue leak and so on. If you can kind of name and stake your claim around the problem, that's like so powerful, and only if you even try doing it, even less succeed at doing that. Obviously, this, I always make sure I tell clients or people I'm advising or anyone who cares to ask to not spend too much time on what I just talked about. These strategic foundations obviously need to be in place, but you've seen it probably too many times. I surely did, where marketers or even worse, founders spend just too much time planning, strategizing, and then this takes months, and then you realize that the first version of everything is shit, and you're back to the drawing board after spending 3 months on strategizing and planning. So spend the minimum amount of time on strategy and planning this effort. Jump as soon as possible. As soon as you have these basics in place, jump in and start testing stuff out. Don't forget that everything here is a hypothesis you have that needs to be tested before you can implement it successfully and scale it. So try to get to the implementation phase as soon as possible is what I'm saying. So here we'll cover 4 things. First, the content pillars, then the production flow, founder message fit, and tactical mastery. And I'll slide through them pretty quickly so we leave some time for questions if there are any. So first, some housekeeping. Again, I'll be brief about this. There's so much technical stuff here, but don't have time. So adjust your profile. Use a simple format for your title and your headline. Make it founder at X company, maybe your value prop after that. Don't use the lame format that every consultant now uses, which is I help startups do X and Y. Basically, you're training people to expect a sales pitch from you if you do that. Remove irrelevant connections, because if you have too many irrelevant connections, the way LinkedIn algo works is every time you post, basically you'll suffer. Reach will suffer because it shows it first to a handful of people from your immediate first level connections. So remove everyone irrelevant. Maybe keep friends and ex-colleagues there, but everyone that isn't your ICP should, for the most part, go away. Create a dream account list. Could be your 10, 50, 100 accounts that are sort of ideal, that you really love working with, selling to. So come up with a rough list of what the buying committee in those companies looks like. So if there's, let's say, 100 companies, 3 buying committee members from each, that's just 300 people to connect with them and start engaging with them, gently, nothing pushy, nothing spammy. And I would never suggest, my advice will never be to reach out to them and things like that. If you have like a no sales pitch way of reaching out to people, interviewing them for a podcast, things like that, that's great. But like for the most part, don't spam them with sales pitches. And beyond just that group, come up with an engagement plan. Engaging on the platform matters more than it used to. Still not a big deal. If your content really is killing it, you won't need to do much of it, but just be organic at the platform, which among other things means engage a bit. So this content pillar framework is basically how you put into action all the things, all the strategic foundations we talked about. Your realm of relevancy, category entry points, understanding your ICP, and so on. So it will achieve a few things. It's kind of a better version of a content calendar, which is too strict and doesn't really outline your strategy, doesn't tell your message, and so on. It's just a kind of a simple way of scheduling stuff. So the content pillar framework will help you be aligned on your narrative. So you've identified maybe 3 category entry points you wanna become aligned with, become associated with, and then you have different messages from your narrative that work well with each of these category entry points. Maybe you have multiple ICPs, so you want to map all that stuff out. And plus, it's very hard to measure the effectiveness and performance in general of any given single content piece. So instead, what you want to do is you want to treat each content piece as a content series and not a content piece, plural versus singular. And then you can actually measure it, because then you will have a size of, a decent sample size to look at, versus when you just have a single piece. Like, so many things could have gone wrong or gone right, and therefore the post is doing well or it's not. So, and then the last reason why content pillars are great is they act as this experimentation framework. So basically, your first version of the content pillar framework is gonna have, let's say, 3 teams, 3 category entry points, and then some content series under that. And these are all your bets. This is just testing stuff out, right? You don't know whether anything works. So this is going to be useful for testing all of that. And it can look, there are many ways you can approach it. I take this sort of simplistic approach. We have 3 pillars, for example. Each pillar is a category entry point, meaning a trigger, internal trigger that happens within the organizations I'm selling into. And when these triggers happen, whatever the process is, they bring them to market. So I want to map out all of these and then figure out what are the different ways I can create content around that to associate my brand with these category entry points. Emilia, is you coming in?
I'm
running out of time.
I'm at the stage right now. We are running out of time. We need to present our next speaker soon. But before we present the next speaker, I wanted to ask you some questions, because audience is just it isn't adding any questions to the comment section.
Yep.
I have a question which I'm personally interested in. How do you remain consistent in posting on LinkedIn, and how do you avoid being too self-promotional? I know there are frameworks, there are different advices, different ideas, options, but do you have any clear answer to that question?
Yeah, I would say it's 2 questions. The first, about consistency, like that's always a struggle. And, being a founder or an executive, you'll often have higher priority things. So that's something you should just get used to and brace through it. What works for most people, most founders I talk to, is preparing content in advance, meaning, you do a little batch of few things on weekends or something like that, and you always keep the ideation flow going, meaning, whenever you get a content idea, you write it down, store it in kind of a central database, and then either create content in batches, maybe on weekends or one day in a week, or you block very early in the morning, an hour or so or less of your time to do the content the first thing in the day. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. And then not being too self-promotional, like I guess that's a kind of a personal trait. Like if you're like that in person, you'll probably do stuff like that. But like if you just have your ICP in mind all the time, will they care about this? Is this interesting to them? Did I get something insightful for them? Kind of always use that as a guardrail. Always be asking yourself, is this customer centric, or am I just tooting my horn here with this post?
Yeah, that makes sense. We need to wrap up the session because we have the next speaker waiting to join the stage. I wish you all the best and thank you for amazing insights that you shared on this session. And who knows, maybe we can see each other next year on Demand Conf 2026.
Yeah, sure. Good to be here, folks. Enjoy the rest of the event.